How could it sink in just 2 hours and 40 minutes, a ship built by the brightest minds of its time and considered unsinkable? Perhaps we can solve the mystery by looking closely at the Titanic's rivets, and I mean that literally. It all began with an elegant scene in London in 1907. Lord William James Peary had a big idea and needed the right people on board. He invited the director of the British shipping company, White Star Line, to have a conversation. White Star was already riding the success of transatlantic voyages, making a fortune transporting immigrants to America, but the competition was fierce. Cunard, one of their biggest rivals, had just launched two fast and elegant ships, the Lusitania and the Mauretania. They were the ultimate in speed and luxury. Peary wasn't going to be left behind. As president of an Irish shipbuilding company, he thought that if he allied with White Star, they could dominate the market. That same night, during dinner, they began planning an entire fleet of ocean liners, the Olympic, the Titanic, and a third ship that would eventually become the Britannic. Soon, those ideas became reality. Construction began on the Titanic and its twin, the Olympic. The project was so impressive that they had to build two new shipyards on Queen's Island, known as the Titanic District in the port of Belfast. But building something so massive was no easy task. Harland and Wolff, the British company in charge of construction, was overwhelmed. It was the largest ship anyone had ever attempted to build. It required 15,000 men, working day and night to make that dream come true. The Titanic and its twin were planned to be 269 meters long, enough to surpass Cunard's new liners by 37 meters. When completed, the Titanic was as long as 4 city blocks and as tall as a 9-story building. Besides being the largest ship of its time, it also earned another nickname. When Shipbuilder magazine examined it, they declared it unsinkable. But something went terribly wrong. If we x-rayed the Titanic, we'd see 2,000 steel plates, each up to 9 meters long and about 3 tons in weight. To assemble it, they built it like a giant metal skeleton, with the keel as the backbone and the hull plates forming the outer deck. To beat the competition, the Titanic had to be huge, but also fast. To achieve this, they had to innovate with the propellers. It had two outer propellers, each with 3 blades, and a central one with 4 blades. The outer propellers, 7 meters in diameter, were powered by steam engines. These engines were the ship's muscles, converting steam into the power that turned the propellers. The central propeller was smaller, 5 meters, and worked with a low-pressure steam turbine. The combination of engines and turbine was cutting-edge technology at the time and allowed the Titanic to sail at around 21 knots. That's roughly 39 kilometers per hour. It doesn't sound very fast, but for a ship of that size, it was impressive. The propellers were made of manganese bronze, a material chosen for its corrosion resistance. And believe me, that's crucial when crossing salty ocean water. This engine system could generate up to 46,000 horsepower, equivalent to 230 cars combined. To move the ship, there were 2 huge side propellers connected to engines that acted like giant pumps, pushing it forward. Then there was the third propeller in the center, working as a steam turbine, a special kind of engine that gave extra thrust while using less fuel. All of this wasn't just about power, it was about speed. Other ships had used steam turbines years before, but since the Titanic was bigger and heavier, its system had to be extra powerful to keep it fast, stable, and comfortable for everyone on board. After 2 years of hard work, the Titanic was ready for its first trial. On May 31st, 1911, a crowd of 100,000 people stopped to watch. As the Titanic slid into the River Lagan, Lord Peary was accompanied by American millionaire J.P. Morgan, who had acquired financial control of White Star. The Titanic floated for the first time, but it would take another year to fully equip it. What was needed to turn that giant steel skeleton into a luxurious floating palace? It had everything: a heated swimming pool, Turkish baths, palm trees in the cafes, a squash court, and a first-class dining room for 554 people. According to some reports, the most luxurious suite on the Titanic was reserved by an American woman named Charlotte Drake Cardeza. She paid $2,500 in 1912. Even today, that's a lot of money. Adjusted for inflation, it would be around $50,000 today, all for a one-way ticket across the Atlantic. Workers rushed to finish painting and polishing the Titanic by March 31st, 1912. White Star's captain, Edward John Smith, 62 years old, boarded to supervise the final trials of the world's largest liner. The captain even said this would be his last Atlantic crossing. By the time he reached America, he would retire. On April 10th, the ship was ready for its maiden voyage. It sailed to Southampton to load coal and pick up its first passengers. Passenger Sylvia Caldwell asked a sailor if such a massive ship was really unsinkable. He replied with a phrase that would become legendary: "Not even God himself could sink this ship." 4 days after departing, the RMS Titanic met its fate. Although the ship had received iceberg warnings, it was sailing too fast in the darkness. When the lookouts finally saw the iceberg, it was too close. There was no time to stop or turn fully. Imagine trying to slam the brakes on an enormous car. Now imagine that car weighs 20,000 times more and is moving absurdly fast. When the Titanic tried to dodge it, it scraped the iceberg along one side. The impact tore nearly 100 meters of the hull and damaged 6 of the 16 watertight compartments. This caused the bow to sink. while the stern lifted like an unbalanced lever. At a sharper angle, the ship began to split in half, and that's how it finally sank. But then the question arises, why did the hull and the rivets break so easily? In 1991, an expedition discovered pieces of the Titanic's hull and found something alarming. The steel used was extremely brittle, especially at sub-zero temperatures like that night. Instead of bending under pressure, the steel shattered like glass, making the impact far worse. Chemical analysis revealed high sulfur levels, which weakened the material. That brittle steel, combined with high speed and extreme cold, was a perfect recipe for disaster. There were material failures, but the ship's design also had serious flaws. The watertight compartments were not completely sealed at the top. When water entered, it spilled from one to another, speeding up the sinking. If the ship had been built with better steel, a double hull, or improved watertight compartments, the disaster might have been avoided. Perhaps long enough for the RMS Carpathia to rescue everyone on board. The Titanic was not unsinkable, but for its time it was a triumph of engineering and luxury. The problem is that even the best designs cannot always defeat nature. If you want to discover more incredible stories like this, subscribe now and never miss a journey into history.